What's happening, everybody? Tarafdar back with a brand new video. Today's topic is about the stimulus check and the debt collectors. So there's a lot of people who've been talking about how these debt collectors are going to come in and basically take your stimulus check and essentially take it away from you, right? The reality is, it depends on specific things that you've done in the past as to how to protect yourself when it comes to that specific situation with that debt collector. And what I mean by that is you basically have to have a couple of components in place in order to protect yourself from them coming in and snatching that stimulus check from you. In addition to the way you've been retroactively taking care of your personal credit, and what are some of the things that you have potentially have done with your personal credit file to the point where it's leading them today to even considering touching your stimulus check, right? And if you think in simple terms, what I'm trying to tell you guys is, have you started a campaign in which, as the minute you saw that debt collector in your credit reports, you've done everything in your power to make sure that they come nowhere near your financial capacity, right? They come nowhere near the ability to even collect from you, let alone have the right to report. So there are certain infrastructure and the way that you have to go about handling debt collectors, which is an incredibly important part of what I'm going to discuss with you guys today. I put out a couple of different content around debt collectors in the past that were very strategic on the reference point of how to challenge them in reference to how they report, in reference to their activities in order to collect from you, in addition to a couple of other things that substantiates the ability for these debt collectors to go on and try to get something from you, right? So your stimulus check is one of those things that is a financial ticket for you, but there are certain things in law that were passed that this kind of cripples your ability to kind of challenge some of the aspects of protecting yourself from that seizure of the check, right? One of the biggest things that you have to keep in mind is if you see a debt collector that's been on your report and you haven't had the privilege of challenging them or haven't had to take in your time in order to fight against that, then this is the perfect and ideal time to really get to do that, right? When I say this is because if they're there and you see that they're trying to collect on you and they've been putting information on your credit reports for a long time, and they haven't really validated that debt, that's one of the biggest reasons which can essentially help you in order to fight those debt collectors, right? In order to collect a debt, right, as a collection agency and in general practice and practices of attempting to even collect a debt legitimately, I have to validate that debt. I have to make sure that as a collection agency, I have the right, number one, to collect. And I've demonstrated my right vis-a-vis legal processes and due diligence. In addition to that, I have the capacity to collect based on the financial principles of the balance that's owed. When I talk about financial principles, I want you guys to think certified accounting statements. This is a term that's going to come up quite a bit, is because a lot of people don't realize the value of understanding the accounting principles behind an account, right? If you look at a specific type of debt, if it's certified under accounting standard, it means that it's been validated and somehow audited to reflect an accurate figure that is appraised by a third party, right? Like if you're looking at financial documents of a company, if certain financials are not audited properly, they won't even have the right to go to the public stock exchange or file an IPO. So the same standard, of course, is not as high of a standard, but the same principles of standards are required essentially when you're filing tax returns, essentially when you're trying to go and get some loans at a bigger scale. So being that you're a huge institution that has this large amounts and quantities of debt that you're handling on behalf of a financial institution that charged off that account, you'd assume the reasonable responsibility to get those accounts audited to, number one, make sure that there is an accuracy to that amount that you're attempting to collect, and number two, you have the full certified financial statements backing your claim in order to even give you the activity and the right of activity to go ahead and collect from your customer. So that's one of those things I want you guys to really buckle down on and get really comfortable around that language, because if you're not familiar with this principle, then you need to be, right? Don't fall behind on trying to do outdated tactics and worn out strategies that are not really effective. And I'm pretty sure you're going to hear a lot of other credit gurus talk about financial accounting statements of credit past this video, right? A lot of people out there, I know they're trying to copy the methods that I'm teaching you guys, but the biggest downside to that is, number one, they'll leave you hanging. They'll probably take the money because they sound intelligent. And number three, I think what's going to happen is they're going to try to take it to a level where they think they have control over, but it's not going to work, right? And that's been proven over and over again as I start to talk to a lot of individuals out there and as I start to give them my time in order to help them. But what I'm trying to tell you guys is get familiar with those concepts. Get familiar with the processes of certified financial statements whenever a debt collector attempts to collect. So that's the first thing you need to request by mail. But also in that same document that you're asking for certified financial statement, you have to ask, the right to collect comes in many different forms and formats. If you can show me by any means that you've had the exact specific language that gives you the 100% accuracy and the legal right of this alleged amount that you say I owe, that it is reflecting extremely accurately on the credit reports, which is a mandatory requirement to start reporting in the first place, then I'm happy to oblige. But only if you follow those conditions. And the third question you can definitely ask is, to even report to the bureaus, you'd have to show some sort of transactional agreement between yourself and that debt collector. It's another language you guys need to get comfortable with. It's called transactional agreement. A transactional agreement simply means, when you file with a credit card application and you get approved and you start making your monthly payments and you're borrowing your credit card, what happens is that credit card company is filing on a regular basis to those credit reporting agency. That's a transactional activity that's been approved through an application process in which you give permissible purpose to the credit company, the credit card company, so that they can pull that information and then issue credit to you depending on the merits of your personal credit score. That's a transactional activity. When a debt collector puts information on the credit reports, and a means of a debt collector, they have their codes and a subscriber code as a debt collector, but information reported doesn't preclude them from being accurate. So if it's an account that's been put up and there's an amount that's issued, and the exchange market between creditors and debt collectors, when they take that debt in their books, there's a disclosure, and that clear disclosure simply states that we don't guarantee the accuracy and the amount of this debt, and we assume no liability for that, and you are collecting at their own risk. That's the simple disclosure. That's what we call a quitclaim language. So you have to use this language very clearly in your document. And you have to ask, hey, show me also the quitclaim language so that I can clearly see and it's clearly articulated that whatever you're doing here is legitimate, number one. And number two, it complies with the rules of reporting, which means it has to be mandatory that it has 100% accurate, or else it violates not only the Fair Credit Reporting Act, but it's also misleading, which in fact is hurting my ability to borrow, and it's injurious to me because it's deficient to me, as when I go to apply, because of you, I am not able to do so, hence causing financial damage and opportunity loss. You guys have to get familiar with this. I'm going to ask you to replay this video a couple of times to really get comfortable around these languages. Really get comfortable around communicating this very thoroughly. It's very critical. If you're not comfortable with this, then the next few steps that you're going to take is going to be harmful. Now, because you've communicated with them on those specifics and the way you've articulated that language, now you can go ahead and create some sort of affidavit. An affidavit is simply a sworn statement of declaratory facts that you're stating out there that, hey, number one, they've never sent me a certified financial statement of the alleged debt, that it actually has any financial value. Number two, when they sent me this information, they haven't shown me that they have the right to collect and or the right to report. And number three, they've never shown me a transactional relationship between myself and them. In addition to that, because they haven't validated through financial accuracy the alleged debt that they say I owe, they're also misleadingly reporting to the credit bureaus, which is a violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Highlight those statements, and then at the very end, you simply say a resolution at this absolute order needs to be where they cease and desist collection activity, and therefore if they should decide to go after me for any sums that I owe without qualifying all those measurements and satisfying those conditions, they will be liable for up to 10 times the amount, whatever you want to declare, right? So you got to really learn to get comfortable around that specific language that you have to communicate, because that's your way into ensuring that you get the right results, but also that these results stick, and that you're showing these debt collectors that you know what you're talking about, because that's very critical, right? So a lot of people get lost in the language and these templates and, oh my God, I have this fancy stuff. If you guys want real results, download my stuff. I don't care about any of that, guys. I'm pretty sure you know this by now. What I care about, though, is changing the game, the proper way, that is, right? And if you guys learn to implement this and take this resource, and look, I have a course. I teach about personal credit at the highest level. I have a lot of success stories. I know you guys are going to benefit from that. Now, that's up to you when to take that. I'm not going to force you to do that. I'm not going to say, I'm doing a video every single day to give you a story, and then you follow for that story, and then I'm going to ask you, hey, call me up, and I'm going to sell you something. I don't care about that. I got other business activities, and you can see that I'm very passionate about what I do for you guys. And that's the real outcome that you're looking for. You're looking for somebody who knows and who doesn't depend on this, that can give you concrete data that is not tied to some hook of a sales pitch. And that's what I'm trying to give you guys in terms of raw education that I want you to take away today and apply it so that you can benefit and so that those debt collectors can cease their activity on collecting that stimulus check, the stimulus check that you're about to get. So if you guys did enjoy this video, absolutely destroy that thumbs up button. Help me distribute my content out there. Get other people to be aware of this type of content so that we can build a huge and bigger community focused around the right way to fix credit, stay ethical, while building substantial wealth along the way. And I'd definitely like to be part of you guys' journey for that. And with that said, this is definitely your guide and mentor, Ali Tarafdar. Catch you guys on the next one. Bye for now.